Juneteenth by Vonda Michelle Nelson and Drew Nelson. Illustrations by Schroder. For the sisters, Olive, Willa, Laura, Renee, and Charlotte. For Crystal and Justin. For my wife, Nicole. Jubilee. It is June 19th, 1865, a hot day in Texas. Clouds decorate the bright blue sky. On a farm outside the city of Galveston, a man hoes corn. 5 miles away, a teenage boy chops wood. Nearby, a woman scrubs the floor. Her sister milks a cow in the barn. It seems like a normal day. Then a message arrives in Galveston. It races from ear to ear through town. The message is carried to the countryside by riders on horseback. It is carried by wagon and by people on foot. The people on foot are running because the message is so important. When the news reached the man in the cornfield, tears rolled down his cheeks. 5 miles away, the young woodcutter plants his axe in his stump and runs to hug his father. Nearby, the woman stops scrubbing and dances across the wet floor. Her sister drops a bucket of milk and falls to her knees. As the news spreads across Texas, people stop working and jump for joy. These men, women, and children were not ordinary workers. They were enslaved black people. The news that arrived on June 19th changed their lives forever. On that day, General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston. He read an order from President Abraham Lincoln. The order said enslaved people were free. This was good news, but it was old news. President Lincoln had given the order in 1863. But enslaved people in some places were not told right away. It took more than 2 years for the order to reach those in Texas. When it finally did, the streets of Galveston rang with black voices shouting, "We're free, free, free!" Slavery. But how did black people become enslaved? Imagine that you are playing outside. Suddenly, you are captured in a net like an animal. You are packed in the bottom of a ship with many other stolen people. You are taken far away to another country. You are forced to stand naked on a platform called an auction block. A man pays money for you. He owns you now. You are his property. You must do everything he says, and he can do whatever he wants to you. He can make you work. He can put chains on you. He can whip you, even kill you. You never again see your home or family. Beginning in 1619. These things happened to millions of African people. They were taken to North America and to other places as slaves. Why did Americans want to enslave people? Some in the North wanted housekeepers and farmhands. Many Southerners needed workers for their plantations. Plantations were huge farms for cotton, tobacco, corn, and other crops. Plantation owners sold these crops to make money. The owners could keep more money if they did not have to pay their workers. They did not pay enslaved blacks. War 1861 through 1865. Not everyone wanted slavery. Many people in the North and some in the South wanted to free enslaved people. They knew that slavery was wrong, and they spoke against it. They believed that no one should own another person. Most Southerners did not want their way of life to end. Without slavery, who would pick their crops and chop their wood? Who would cook their meals and clean their houses? Also, many white people believed that they were better than black people. They believed that blacks were not equal and did not deserve to be free. Northern leaders would not give up, and the Southern states would not give in. Finally, a group of Southern states decided they could no longer be a part of the United States. They broke away and formed the Confederate States of America. Now, the country was divided into two parts: the Confederacy in the South and the Union in the North. On April 12, 1861, armies from the two sides began to fight. This was the start of the Civil War. Freedom. On January 1, 1863, President Lincoln signed a special order called the Emancipation Proclamation. It said that all persons held as slaves in the Confederate States were forever free. Many plantation owners kept President Lincoln's orders secret. Even when the owners knew the South would lose the war, they wanted one more free harvest. But Union soldiers brought the news as the troops moved through the South. Enslaved people spread the word to others. Thousands of newly freed blacks joined the Union Army to help win the war. Some who were enslaved in Texas heard tales about freedom. But they couldn't be sure these stories were true. They had to be careful. If they even talked about freedom, they could be punished. If they tried to leave the plantations, they might be whipped or much worse. All they could do was wait and hope. Finally, in April 1865, the Union won the Civil War. More than 700,000 people from the North and the South died fighting in this war. On June 19th, Union General Granger brought the news of freedom to Galveston. Texas was the last state where the official announcement was made. No more slavery chains. Not everyone believed the announcement. More than 200 years had passed since Africans were first captured and brought to North America. By 1865, most enslaved blacks in North America had been born here. The only life they knew was slavery. Then, in an instant, they were free. Once they knew the truth, they stopped working. The moment was scary and wonderful. They were free. They laughed and cried, shouted and prayed. They danced and sang, gathered and hugged. They imagined their lives as free Americans. Some freed blacks left the plantations with just the clothes on their backs. They didn't know where they were going. They were happy just to be free to go anywhere. Many searched for loved ones who had been sold to other plantations. Some were reunited with their families. Others never found their parents or children. Some found jobs in cities. Others could not because white people wouldn't hire them. Many stayed on plantations because they had nowhere else to go. They were free, but Black Americans would struggle for equal rights for a long time. Still, the end of slavery brought great joy and a reason to celebrate. Juneteenth. On June 19, 1866, 1 year after they had learned of their freedom, freed African Americans came together to celebrate. The city of Galveston was alive with music. The sweet, smoky smell of barbecue filled the air. Black Texans were wearing their Sunday best. They gathered and hugged. They shared news and told stories. They sang spirituals celebrating freedom. No more slavery chains for me. No more, no more. Folks attended ceremonies, worship services, and parades to mark the day. This was the first of many June 19th celebrations in Texas. And when Black Texans moved to other states, they took the tradition with them. But how did June 19th become Juneteenth? At first, Texans called it Freedom Day, Emancipation Day, Jubilee, or simply June 19th. As years passed and freedom stories were told and retold, June and 19th blended together into Juneteenth. Today, Juneteenth is celebrated much like the first anniversary in 1866. People of all colors arrive at parks, churches, schools, and backyards for picnics. The sweet, smoky smell of barbecue fills the air. Potato salad, corn on the cob, biscuits, homemade ice cream, cakes, pies, and melons crowd the tables. Red velvet cake and red soda pop are traditional treats. Red honors all the people whose blood was shed in slavery and in the struggle for freedom. Festive parades fill city streets with music and dancing. Black cowboys and cowgirls clop through town on horses. Miss Juneteenth waves from a decorated float. Folks stroll along, sing songs of freedom and patriotism. Spirited baseball games bring whoops and hollers from excited fans. Foot races, sack races, and rodeos spark cheers and laughter. At the cakewalk, people clap their hands and tap their feet. Dancers turn a leap, strut and quick step to win the grand prize, a delicious cake. Worship services and readings of the Emancipation Proclamation are important parts of Juneteenth. Speakers tell and retell stories of slavery and freedom. They share tales of why enslaved Texans were the last to get the news. One legend says that the first messenger sent with the proclamation was murdered along the way. Another story says that he was given a very, very slow mule to ride. People laugh, but no one forgets the real reason for the late news. No one forgets that Juneteenth is not just a day to have fun. It is a time to remember. Juneteenth is celebrated in big or small ways almost everywhere in the United States. The government of Texas made it a state holiday on January 1, 1980. From Florida to Alaska, California to New Jersey, other states across the nation have followed this example. Many people believe that June 19th should be a national holiday, like Thanksgiving or the 4th of July. Wherever it is celebrated, Juneteenth is a time to sing praises for the end of slavery in the United States.